Welcome to my book, 14 Computer Engineering Words to Impress Your Friends With. Let's begin. A computer is a machine that uses electricity to send signals through wires and follows instructions. That means even your phone is a computer. Different computers have different kinds of electric signals. A digital signal is when the electricity either flows or does not flow. It's like a light switch, where the switch can only be turned on or off. The second kind of electric signal is an analog signal. An analog signal is when the electricity flows and changes continuously without sharp jumps. If you think of a wire as a pipe with water in it, you could send an analog signal by changing how much water was in the pipe. A diode, rhymes with myode, is a fancy word for a tiny box that goes on top of a wire and only allows electricity to go in one direction. You've probably heard of LEDs, which are light-emitting diodes. They are a unique kind of diode that make light. If you have an LED TV, your TV has thousands of them. An integrated circuit is a kind of computer that only does one thing. There are many integrated circuits, or ICs, for all sorts of different tasks. For example, there are ICs in your toaster that count down the time until your toast is ready. It looks like a little bug because of its legs, which are called pins. Those are where the electricity goes in and out. A microcontroller is a very tiny computer. It's less powerful than the computer you have at home, which means that it can't do all the same things. It looks just like an IC, but it has even more pins. Your alarm clock has microcontrollers in it that send signals to make sound when it's time to wake up. Computer architecture is how a computer is organized and put together. It's how each of the different parts work together to make a computer do what it does. If a computer is a city, then computer architecture is the city plan. The most important part of a computer is the CPU, or Central Processing Unit. That's a fancy word for the brain of the computer, since it carries out instruction and directs information. It is very small, just like a microcontroller, but a CPU has even more pins. Another important part of a computer is the memory. There are many different kinds of computer memory, but the big ones are called RAM, or Random Access Memory, and ROM, or Read-Only Memory. Computer memory is used to store information that the computer wants to look at later, just like your own memory. RAM is for things that the computer is only using right now, just like a paper plate. The computer throws away the information once it's all done. ROM is for things the computer wants to keep much longer, like a regular plate, which you wash and reuse later. But a computer doesn't store memories like we do. Instead, it stores a special kind of number you'll find out on the next page. Binary numbers are a special kind of number that a computer uses. Instead of counting 1 to 9 like we do, computers count 0 to 1. There's a lot of fancy math that people use to turn normal numbers into binary numbers, but they work just the same as normal numbers with regular addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Here are some examples of normal numbers and the same numbers in binary. A bit is a single digit of a binary number. It's actually a combination of binary and digit. Since it's in binary, a bit can only be a 0 or a 1, sort of like on or off. A byte is 8 bits together. It's like an 8-digit number, similar to how 1000 is a 4-digit number. It's like a cabinet, with 8 drawers to store the bits. Computers use bytes to store all kinds of numbers, and when a computer wants to store a number bigger than 8 digits, or bits, it uses more bytes. Since computers can only store numbers in their memory, they use numbers to represent different things. It's like how the number 2 can mean 2 fingers, or 2 legs. So that means that we have to talk to computers in numbers too. When we want to tell a computer to do something, we give it instructions in a special language called a programming language. The instructions are called programs. This language may look like silly nonsense to you, but that's just because it's like any other language. You have to learn how to speak it. There are many different programming languages, but some of the most common are C++, Java, and Python. However, if you are very clever, you will notice that programming languages still use English words, and I told you that computers only talk in numbers. What's the deal? Well, it's very difficult to use numbers to write programs because it can be so confusing. So some very smart people came up with a very smart program called a compiler. A compiler takes the program, written in a programming language, and translates it into the number language of computers, called machine language. It's just like if you have a friend who speaks 2 languages. And finally, the coolest computer word I know, ASCII, rhymes with nasty. That stands for American Standard Code for Information Interchange. It's a table of numbers and letters, and it tells us which numbers mean which letter, so that when the computer wants to write something in human words, it can use numbers to mean letters. The letters in ASCII look very plain, but some creative people make art out of them. This computer is made entirely from ASCII letters. And that's it. Now go tell your friends these words, and they are sure to be super impressed with your computer knowledge.